told him I was visiting my family but went to my affair instead. He tracked location and surprised me. My name is Miranda, female 30 years. But my father used to call me Mimi and my husband, or let me say my ex-husband is Richard, male 35 years. We met at home. I don't know if you will understand if I say it like that. Well, Richard had come to my house to deliver some documents that my father needed because he was working at home that day since my mother was not feeling well. He came to our house and asked where my father was. I didn't answer him at first because I had just zoned out the time I opened the door for him. I think he saw that I had zoned out and he just let himself in. That was when I managed to bring my mind back to reality. I was charmed by his handsomeness, his body posture, the way he dressed. One would swear he was a model or something, and not to mention when he opened his mouth, I just melted and zoned out on the spot. So I followed him and told him that my father was busy, but he could leave whatever he had brought to me, of which he refused, and told me that he needed to give them to my father. 6 or 7 months later, I don't remember well, he proposed. I had told my father that I was dating him and he didn't approve of our relationship, but he had no choice but to accept things as they were because a heart knows what it wants right and it wants Richard. We got married during summer holidays. My father was not really okay with me getting married at 25, but I made him understand that the decision I had taken was what my heart wanted. Things were great between us. Our marriage was what I can say a dream marriage life. He was perfect. We were perfect, you know. I didn't even get any doubt feeling about us. I had thought we were going to spend our whole lives together, but I guess life always has other plans for everyone, right? My mother had recovered, meaning my father had gone back to be hands-on with his practice. A year later after our marriage, we were still very much in love, and the love grew more and more, especially when we discovered that I was pregnant. We were so happy, you know. My heart still bleeds when I think of how much hope and faith I had put into that marriage, only for it to just end like it had never even started. It went down the drain like ashes being washed away by the sea. 9 months later, I gave birth to the most precious and beautiful twins. I was so happy and in so much love with them. That time I knew I had been blessed with everything in life. I mean, I had the most loving, supportive, and caring husband and the most beautiful babies. What more would I have asked for? You know, sometimes being a housewife is somehow boring because you just don't do anything besides cleaning, washing, and cooking. I miss my life, you know. Plus, my husband had suddenly become busy at work, so most of the time he wasn't home till late. The twins were a great distraction for me because I would have been lonely to death if they were not there. They brought so much joy and happiness in my heart to a point that I even didn't care much about Richard's sudden behavior. Just as long as they were there, my heart was at peace. About 2 or 3 years later, Richard started changing for the worst. He would go out a lot, saying he was going out with his friends and came back home very late. I knew his knockoff time since he was working for my father. Well, my father eventually accepted him as his son-in-law, and he allowed him to continue being his assistant because he trusted him, even though it wasn't fully, but he did trust him. The children would always complain that their daddy was no longer spending much time with them, and that would always break my heart because I didn't know what lie I would tell my children. I tried addressing that issue with Richard and begged him to at least show some love and attention to children because they were noticing that their father had changed. And to their little smart minds, they thought their daddy didn't love them anymore. Only if I knew that the bastard was actually on a mission to destroy me. He promised to change and told me a lame and lousy excuse that my father was giving him so much work. So that was why he would come back late, because he didn't want any destruction and would leave the office before he gets done with everything. He became the father that my children wanted for a couple of weeks until he changed and went back to his old self. I didn't know what to do anymore, so I told my father what had been happening in my marriage. I had a glimpse of hope that my father would be able to get through him and become the husband to me and a father to our children, since Richard respected my father, as he said he was, or pretended to be, respectful towards my father. After some time, I saw that there was no change in his behavior. I took my children to my parents' house not because I wanted to try and fix my marriage with Richard, but I wanted to find out about his behavior. My conscience was telling me that he was doing something that he knew I wouldn't approve of, or something that would jeopardize our marriage. Cheating was the first thing that came to my mind when he started going out a lot and not coming back home or even trying to spend some time with our children. Something was definitely off fish with him, and I knew I needed to find out what it was. You know, sometimes hiring a private investigator for your husband can be too extreme because it questions your marriage, loyalty, and trust between two married people. So I decided to just stay in the house and observe him. It was easy because the kinds were not there wanting my attention. Most of the time I would order in, not because I was too lazy to cook or anything, but because I got tired of cooking for someone who never notices my efforts and at least eats my food or takes it to work. It was really a waste of energy and food. I couldn't shake off the feeling that he was doing something that would definitely jeopardize our marriage. Things got too bad to a point that I was no different than single mothers. My husband was there, but he was not there. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Everything was just too much for me to bear. The children were so handful and would sometimes ask for their father, and I had to lie for him every single day. You know the pain of having to lie to your children, telling them that their father was busy at work, even when you know deep down that he knocks off early and goes to wherever he spends most of his time with whoever he was spending time with. I loved my husband, but what he was doing to me was really what I never signed up for, and I needed to know what he was getting up to before I jumped into conclusions. I didn't even want to tell my parents about my marital problems until I knew what had been happening with the person I had married. One thing I will forever be grateful for that Richard had given me would be my children. You know, on that one, he gave me the most precious and priceless gift ever. I don't regret loving him because till today I still have some feelings for him, but I regret being the one who approached him as a cheap and easy woman. One day I downloaded a dating app because I was bored and I needed someone who could give me some action. I was tired of helping myself sexually. So as I was scrolling, I became a match with some handsome guy whose name was Eric Peterson, male 33. When I looked through the guy's profile, I was really taken. I mean, he was what I needed in a man. He was slim fit with fair complexion and sexy green eyes. He made me feel wet just by looking at his pictures. So the guy sent me a text and we started talking through the app. Our conversations were flowing. It was like we had known each other for a very long time. We had chemistry, you know? The connection was there. We spoke for a couple of days and we had also exchanged numbers, so we were chatting on WhatsApp Messenger mostly. We had done some video calls, well, not just normal video calls, but those nasty and freaky video calls. I had thought that that man was just for me. Eric and I had the same desires, and we connected in a way that I can't even explain. Weeks passed, Eric and I had met twice, and to say I was taken by the guy's action would be an understatement. He was on top of this world. I'm not saying my husband didn't have action, but he was always busy, and I was not getting anything from him anymore except for his money and a few kisses here and there, but it was seriously boring. I needed some intimacy. Someone who would be able to take me to another planet and make me see the ninth cloud. Since Richard wasn't there to help me with my desires, I used Eric for my satisfaction. The guy made sure that I was overly satisfied and I had reached my climax. That's how our affair started. Well, we started calling our thing an affair when we had seen each other for the third time and both of us couldn't get enough of each other. I was so much into the moment to the point that I even lived a double life. I loved my husband a lot, but I loved what Eric was doing to me more. I had been living a double life, sneaking around behind my husband's back with a man named Eric. Their affair had been going on for months, hidden beneath layers of lies and deceit. I knew that if Richard was to find out, a lot would be destroyed and lost. I know what I did was really a selfish and greedy move, but my affair with Eric was only for intimacy and nothing more. Yes, there were feelings involved, but I couldn't love him just like I loved my husband. I know I took a wrong turn to deal with the whole thing. I know I shouldn't have fallen in love with the guy that I had met on a dating app, but he was giving me what I had been not getting from my husband. The guy made me feel secure, happy, and alive while my husband was busy with his own thing and focusing more on his business. It was supposed to be a once-off thing, but I got carried away and now karma is dealing with me so bad. Please give me tips on how I should have dealt with this. I still love my husband, but I'm stuck in between a rock and a very hard place. But what was expected of me because my husband was no longer giving me his attention? So as I was at home, I was chatting with Eric. He became a very good destroyer. He made me feel so much at peace, like I was loved. While my husband would shower me with romantic dinners, flowers, and all those materialistic things that I didn't really need. Even our intimate moments were no longer nice because it felt like he was being romantic because he thought it made me happy, but it was not. All I wanted was to be seen, be free, and be appreciated, and that was what Eric was giving me, the attention. As time went on, I found myself drawn to Eric's youthful energy and zest for life. I began to feel a connection with him that I hadn't felt in a long time. However, I knew that I was married and committed to Richard. Eric was spending more time together, exploring new ventures. It was fun. I got to be free and be me again. Yes, I needed a friend to pass time with, but I felt something for Eric. Despite my initial intentions to keep things platonic, my feelings for Eric grew stronger each day. I found myself daydreaming about him and eagerly awaiting our conversations in the dating app since it was where we would communicate because I didn't want my husband to find out about my newly formed friendship with Eric. One day I couldn't resist the temptation any longer. I had to either choose to stay away from Eric and throw away how I feel, or I confess everything. So I decided to meet Eric in a restaurant kilometers away from where my house is. just to see if their connection was as strong offline as it was online. They arranged to meet at a local coffee shop, and my heart raced with excitement and guilt. I had many thoughts about my meeting with Eric. I was somehow having second thoughts, but then again, I thought that it was just going to be an innocent thing with nothing major. I don't really know what came over me. Lust and craving for something outside your relationship can cause a huge disaster and drift between couples. I craved for something that I was not getting in my relationship. I went outside my perfect imperfect relationship and ruined the only good thing that I had. I regret it, and I don't know what to do to fix it. I cheated with the person that I had found on a dating app. I know that I risked not only my marriage, but my life also. What if Eric turned out to be a serial killer or an abductor? Now that I got caught, I don't really know how to recover from this. I know I messed up, but can't he at least give me one last chance? I won't deny that I did him wrong, and what I did is unforgivable. I acted like a loose witch who doesn't think before taking action. I knew that my husband loved me too much, but I went ahead and listened to my desires to a point that I even risked myself and had a sexual affair with a total stranger. People are crazy these days. Anything could have happened to me or my family. Sometimes we do things just because of lust or greed, or I don't know how I can put this, but we ladies sometimes do things without thinking, and when karma visits us, we start regretting and end up asking yourself what is wrong with you, or what if I did this or that? And if I didn't listen to, I wouldn't have gotten myself into this mess. A lot of things start ringing in your mind, and reality kicks in like an unexpected tornado. To tell the truth, I regret and will always regret what I did, because it showed how weak and not being able to avoid temptation I was. I miss him so much, but there is actually nothing I could do. I messed up, and it is not anyone's fault but mine. I had brought this upon myself. My stupid actions cost me my future love. I didn't know, I got tempted only to find out that I got tempted in the wrong place and at the wrong time. Now I'm suffering the consequences. Funny thing that had happened was that whenever I spent time with Eric, he would tell me that one day he would make me his lover, and that we were not going to end up meeting in secret like we were kids. He was a smooth and sweet talker, Yes, I felt the same way as him, but I never thought he was serious about what he said, so I took it as a joke. He would always remind me that one day he was going to fetch me, so I would move with him to Jersey City, where he was residing, and that I was his future lover, but he wanted to fix something first. I took all that as a joke and thought he was just saying everything because he wanted me to feel special. Not knowing that he was actually confessing his true feelings, can you imagine? I was just a simple and ordinary girl with good marriage and everything, but with the greed and desire that I had, I destroyed everything. I was somehow self-doubting myself because of my past. So one day I was surprised when I got a call from Eric asking me to accompany him to the business gala that was outside the country. A side of me was angry at the fact that he had gone AWOL on me then. All of a sudden he called inviting me to a business gala dinner. So Eric and I went to the United Arab Emirate, UAE, for the business trip. Eric had booked us separate rooms, which I appreciated a lot, even though I wished he booked us in one room. Later on he asked me to wear it nicely. I was going to be his date at some business gala dinner. Mind you, that time I had told my husband that I was going to visit my extended family in Monaco, where my mother was born. I couldn't tell him that I was going with my affair partner. I still respected my husband so much, so saying those things would definitely end our marriage. I knew that he wouldn't have a problem with me going to visit my extended family in the name of I needed a break. Obviously, I left the kids at my parents' house. Little did I know that my life would actually come and haunt me while I was least expecting. So the man, my AP, just did the unthinkable and gave me money to purchase a dress. As much as I was happy and comfortable with the way he was looking at me, I loved the dress I had chosen. After the gala dinner, we went to our separate rooms. My heart and soul longed for my husband, but he wasn't there. As I had finished taking a shower, Eric knocked into my room and asked me to help him with something urgently. Mind you, that time I was only in my hotel gown, so I went to open the door to let him in. He stared at me like he was looking at something he liked or loved. It really made me somehow crave for him and his touch. And I needed him, I asked what he wanted me to help him with. He didn't answer me. Instead, he just complimented me and my body. That somehow made me feel beautiful, because no guy had ever complimented me or my body. Not even my ex-boyfriend and my husband had last complimented my body after our honeymoon. Almost my whole life I had been body shamed. Always being told and reminded how imperfect your body shape is and how bad I looked. My husband brought back that self-esteem that I had lost in my previous relationship. So hearing someone or having someone compliment me and my body always does something to me. It raises my self-esteem a little, and it actually gets boosted. But on another thought, I would doubt someone who compliments my body would say it genuinely and mean it. Because my ex-boyfriend and my husband would compliment me whenever he wanted some intimacy. Then I would think he meant it, but things change whenever we get into an argument or I find out that he was cheating. He would remind me how bad looking I was and how my body was badly shaped compared to the girls that he was cheating on me with. But the way Eric was looking at me made me think that he meant it, and he had been complimenting me since we went to the gala dinner that he had asked me to accompany him to. The way his stares were intense, they made me uncomfortable, so I excused myself. So I would go to the bathroom and change to proper clothes because I wouldn't, and I couldn't change in front of him since the hotel room has only one bedroom with an ensuite. When I got into an ensuite, I was able to breathe since I was holding my breath and felt goosebumps over my body. My body was hungry for him. I had planned to be angry at him and deny him some good loving until he explained to me why he had ghosted me. I didn't know why I felt like that, but I did. I had been dry in my nana for more than 2 months. My husband was too busy to have time for me. Was I falling for him? But no, I wasn't. He started complimenting me again, telling me some sweet words. My mind just froze. I didn't even think of the circumstances that would happen because I missed him as much as he missed me, but I couldn't show him that. I felt butterflies on my stomach when he kissed me. To tell the truth, I don't remember and know what happened after, but I found myself kissing him back, but backed out after I had realized that I had made a huge mistake. I had to act as angry as I could be because I was still heartbroken and angry by the fact that he had ghosted me for no valid reason. Wasn't that being a coward? To tell the truth, I didn't regret any moment that I had with Eric. Why would you feel guilty for something you both did and you both were adults? Plus, I was feeling lonely and sexually frustrated, so he helped me remember that I was still alive and I was still a woman even though I was a married man, but I cared less. One thing that I had regretted was that we were careless and too caught up in the moment to a point that we even forgot to use a protection. I didn't know if the guy had a sickness or what, meaning I risked getting sick and pregnant just to get in the moment. I was a fool, right? Months later, the thing that had happened in the hotel room in the United Arab Emirate, UAE, between Eric and I kept going on until we went back home. I won't lie and say I didn't enjoy every moment of it, but I did. Yes, what we did was wrong in every way, but I had a good time. Actually, I had the most splendid time of my life. What we did destroyed a lot of relationships, and I would always feel so bad about it. During those months, Eric and I continued seeing each other secretly, regardless of the outcome of it. So one cold summer day, Eric had invited me to his hotel room since he was around. Richard was no longer the loving husband. I even suspected that he was cheating on me, but couldn't get any proof. So as I was chilling and cuddling with Eric, we heard a knock and the person shouted that they were room service, so we ignored it, thinking it was the hotel helper. Eric asked the person to come back a bit later because we were busy with something. Later on, the same person came back and Eric went to open the door. To my surprise, it was not the room service, but Richard himself. I didn't know how to react really, but his facial expression was full of anger and disappointment, I think. He didn't say anything. Instead, he asked to speak to me on the side. I didn't know what he wanted to speak about, and I didn't care because I had blocked his number just in case he came back to his senses and called me. He had gone to his parents' house, leaving me for way too long. Yes, I still had a lot of love for my husband, but I got tired of waiting for the train that was not going anywhere or making any progress. I know that I should have at least released him and divorced him, but Richard was my true love and my soulmate. We argued until he got pretty angry, and I accidentally got a slap from him. I couldn't believe it, I thought I was dreaming. The guy I had feelings for slapped me, though it was accidentally, but he did it in the end. After he slapped me, he furiously went to my affair, Eric, and started attacking him. It was a real mess, I tell you. After some time, Richard left and told us that he would destroy us. What hurt me the most was when he started crying and told me that he was actually looking forward to spend the day with me, because it was actually our anniversary, and he had planned a celebration for us in the same hotel when he saw my car at the parking lot. He even revealed that when he saw my car, he tried calling me only to find out that I had blocked him. Then he asked his friend to track my number. That was how he found me. No lies, that made me feel really bad because I had thought he didn't love me anymore or he was cheating on me for months. Then when he finds me with Eric, he confesses his plans for our marriage. It didn't make any sense and it still doesn't. But I regret everything. Time passed, things went south for me to a point that I found myself in between everything. I didn't know if I was going in or going out, if the sun was rising or setting. It was a mess. Yes, I was also part of the facade that had destroyed my marriage, but Eric was also part of it. I once received long text messages from one of Richard's sister telling me how much I had disappointed Richard and how much she loved me for her brother, only for me to thank him with a plate full of Shasterisk tea. I knew I had disappointed Richard to the core, and it was really eating me up because the day he caught me with Eric in a hotel room. I had completely forgotten that it was our date of the anniversary. I didn't know okay, or must I say I didn't pay any attention to his on and off moods, going and coming back. I remember him asking what I would like to do on our anniversary, but I didn't really think that it would be so soon. I was caught up in Eric's ghosting act and the way I had missed him being inside me. So I did the dumbest thing I had ever done in my whole life. Days passed and I saw the news, and on the news they were reporting about an accident that had occurred not far from the hotel. When I looked closely at the car, I noticed the registration number, and I saw that it was Eric's car. The way the car looked, I was not sure if he was still breathing or not, but the reporter then said that the victim was badly injured and fighting for his life in hospital. I couldn't help but feel guilty because I didn't know what had caused the accident, but my conscience suspected that Richard might be somehow involved, even though I didn't have anything to prove that, but I couldn't help it. A couple of days after Eric's accident, I got a call from the family attorney stating that I had been sued by my husband. I asked why he was suing me. She told me that she couldn't discuss the matter over the phone, so I had to come to the office. When I got into the attorney's office, she told me that Richard was suing me for emotional distress, and he wanted $5,000 for the stress that I had caused him. I was also told that Richard was going through depression and was taking antidepressants. She even showed me a doctor's file of Richard, which was obviously fake. As I was still trying to wrap my mind about what the attorney had told me, I received lots of messages coming in at the same time. At first, I ignored them and thought that maybe it was Richard's sister throwing tantrums at me. So when I got home, I had time to check my phone, and to my worst surprise, the messages were informing me that there were multiple amounts of money that had been withdrawn from my account. I tried asking myself who and how they could withdraw money on my accounts. I was distraught. I don't want to lie. A few days after that, I was going through a very rough patch. I was slowly losing myself and my sanity. I wanted to just follow my parents and pass on because everything was just too much. As I was busy having a pity party for myself, I received a very shocking video. The video showed Richard Panel beating Eric. He was actually torturing the poor guy. I knew there and then that Richard meant every word when he said he was not playing, when he said he was going to destroy us. I know that Eric was also involved in breaking Richard's heart, but don't you think I was the one who deserved the punishment? I mean, I was the one who went on that dating app knowing that I was married. During those months when I was at home, bored, so I decided to check my social media because it had been a long time since I had checked my socials to see what was trending and going on in the world. The first thing I saw were pictures of me and Eric. Someone had posted them and wrote a lot of bad things about me. I suspected Jefferson because he was the only person who was pretty much angry at me and Eric. People were dragging my name to the mud to a point that I found myself in a very depressing stage. I wanted to just go away to an unknown continent where no one would know me. I was furious, angry, and hurt because whoever did that really ruined my life and my reputation. Days later, I decided to take my cash savings and use them to find out who had linked the pictures of me and Eric. Only to find out that the hotel had cameras. All the rooms actually had cameras, including the bathroom, so the pictures were linked by Richard with Richard's sister's help. My name was tarnished to a point that if I were to try and pick myself up, it would be hard. So I had to fix myself and try claiming back my life. After I had made the apology video, I sent it to Richard's sister. I had her number when she texted me a long text swearing at me. I was feeling guilty. I should have listened to my friend, but I got selfish and ruined my own home. Worst part was that my suspicions about Eric became true because I had suspected that he was doing something, but I ignored all that and fell in the trap of his bed with him. I tried calling Richard after some time with the hope that he would at least answer my call so I would apologize. So we talked and asked him to meet up with me so I would be able to show him how much I regretted everything that had happened between us. If I didn't give up my wedding vows and allowed desires to control me, maybe I would be living happily ever after with Richard, I know, and I lost a precious and perfect man just because I was weak, and Eric was there to satisfy or give me the satisfaction that I had never had. I regret it so much. As a few months passed, I began to realize that the separation between my husband and I had given me a chance to rediscover myself. Even though it had been a struggle to cope with the loss of my husband and the guilt of my infidelity. But I had always put my family and my marriage first, but now I had the opportunity to focus on myself and my own desires. I knew that my marriage was over, the day Richard found me in the act with Eric, but the memories of our past love and the pain of my present situation made it difficult to let go. Months passed, I began to realize that my mistake or infidelity had not only cost me my marriage, but also my self-respect. I felt lost and alone with no direction or purpose. I started drinking and going out a lot, getting reckless until I woke up in a hospital bed. I was really depressed and shut down. From there, I knew that I needed to make amends and find a way to heal. Not only for myself, but for my children also. I had been distant from them for months. I didn't even make means to see them since they were living with Richard's family. I had neglected my children, which was very wrong of me. I loved this man. He was my first everything, my first kiss, my best friend, my strength. And without him, I knew that I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I couldn't go on without my strength. I was struggling so much to a point that I even thought of taking drugs, but I would think of him and how he would feel if he was to find that out too, or our children see or find out that their mother was acting like a junkie. So I attended therapy sessions, read self-help books since I'd become a lover of alcohol. I was somehow an alcohol addict, so I needed all the help I could get and make amends for my infidelity. As the months passed, our love began to heal and grow stronger. We learned to communicate openly for the sake of our children. We realized that our marriage was not a destination but a journey, and we were grateful to be on that journey together. Even though we faced a bit of roller coaster rides because of our past, but as much as I was the one who was wrong in the whole thing.